This is Learn Productions, and today in the hot seat we have
Coach Pallares.
So first question, what college did you go to?
I went to the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, and I went to the University of Texas Arlington for my master's.
What made you want to coach basketball, or what inspired you?
Basketball has always been just a love, a personal love. It goes back to my childhood. I played basketball and just watching basketball games on TV. And the crazy part about it, and I don't really say this a lot, you want to, people watch the games and they want to be like Jordan and they want to be like Scottie Pippen. They want to be those guys. But I would look at the coaches and then the suits and that, like, I want to be that guy. And, I remember just when we had basketball games in elementary and PE, class versus class, I'd take myself out and I'd start coaching. And it was just a natural thing. Then I got to high school and I started doing off-season basketball, and the coaches that I played for just inspired me. And basketball just became something that just proved to me that I could do a lot of things because, I played basketball growing up, but I paused during your junior high years because I just couldn't play basketball. And when I got to high school, it's just something I did. It's really the only thing I could do. I couldn't play football. Typical parents just, they didn't want you to play football. And then, we didn't have soccer. I couldn't play soccer anymore. So it just was natural for me to play basketball. And as I progressed through high school, just the ability to play basketball and everything overcame because I was not very good. I mean, I wasn't good to begin with, but just the growth and everything I overcame through basketball really proved to me that I could do it. So when I got older, I started coaching basketball. It was just one of those things. And through the career, through everything, it just felt natural to coach basketball.
What got you into teaching history?
Man, I've loved history forever. I remember going to my cousins in Mexico, and my cousin, and I've never really told him this either. He would read books. He would take his book out, and he'd start reading, and I found that pretty cool. And I started doing that too. I've always liked history, but just the fact that somebody else likes history too, it made it better. So it's just something that just came natural to me. And I had a teacher in 8th grade. His name was Mr. Markin. And, this was 2001 when the trade centers fell. And just listening to him talk about that really inspired me to do that for a kid one day. And when I got to high school, about freshman year, sophomore year, I started talking to my mom about what I wanted to do. And I felt like just teaching history was what I wanted to do. And as an adult in my career. And in college, I took a lot of great classes with a lot of great teachers that helped me understand history and more love for it. And just now that's what I inspire to do.
What is your everyday schedule like?
Oh man, everyday schedule. It changes, the season that we're in, we just got done with the off season and, I'd start school at 7:30 like most teachers, and I'd be home at 5. But with the start of the season, it just changes back and forth. Right now we're in the beginning of the season where we have morning practices and we start at 5, which means I have to be at the gym by 4:30 so someone can open the door. You go through the morning practice, you come teach for 8 hours a day, then you go lift weights after school, whatever it is. But once we go to afternoon practices, it's going to change. We'll do something like a devotional film, something in the morning. You teach all day, then you turn around and you have practice after school, then you have film study. So we're getting home pretty late, about 6:30, just depending on our schedule for the day, for the week.
Any challenges you face with teaching or coaching?
On a personal level, I feel like sometimes it's am I doing a good enough job? And, I talk to everybody about it and like, am I being a great leader? One of the things about teaching and coaching is that we get to inspire kids to do something in the future. And I feel like sometimes I'm not doing that. I feel like sometimes I'm not really able to reach every single kid and inspire them because I had that. And, and that's what I want to do. And sometimes like I question, am I doing the right thing? But also, I think we're getting to a point where like failure is becoming acceptable. And instead of like, challenging yourself, sometimes we like shut down. And I feel like that's something I've seen here lately. Like we don't want to challenge ourselves and go the extra mile and do things, that are outside of our comfort zone. I think we're getting more accepting of being okay with things, and this is good enough. And I think me personally, I struggle with that. It's, can we get past that? And that's the thing I feel right now is our biggest struggle in education is, can we get kids to want more than what they're accomplishing?
Do you have a preference between coaching or teaching?
I love both. I really do. I love teaching because I get to teach something I truly love. And you ask any of my students, I hope they understand, like, you see how passionate I'm about the history, the subject that I'm teaching. I do love it. But coaching is a totally different thing because you get to know those kids on a totally different level. And, I feel like when I played basketball, when I played sports in high school, I learned a lot about myself because it wasn't just a grade. It wasn't a grade that I was earning, but I learned a lot about who I was. Can I get past these difficult, running exercises that we had to do? Nobody wants to run suicides. Nobody wants to run 36ers, but we had to. And you prove to yourself that you can do it. But you get to know kids that way. You challenge them physically, and you also challenge them mentally to get past that barrier. And so it's two different things. I love coaching. I really do. And you get to inspire kids on a totally different level. You get to know kids on a totally different level than you do teaching, because in teaching, you have 30 kids in a class and you don't always have that opportunity to build that one relationship. And it's sad, but it's the reality. But, if I was just in the classroom and I had the opportunity to build those relationships, I think I could. I think I would. So to answer your question, I don't know if I have a preference. I'll be honest. I think for me, I'd have to do both. And there are days like anybody else, like I just want to teach. I want to get home at 4 or 5 o'clock. But I don't think I could give up coaching though, because you get to know so many kids and you create family bonds. Some of the, today, like I talk to kids that I taught coach 10 years ago. And like they still reach out to me, hey coach, you remember this? Do you remember that? Or coach, thank you for this, and happy birthday. And it's special. It's a special thing, that relationship you build with your athletes.
What do you like the most about coaching basketball?
For one thing, it's indoors, so you don't have to worry about the cold or the heat. Right? It stays cool year round. No, I just love the sport. I don't know what it is. Just something that I fell in love with when I was a kid. It's 5-on-5. It's I don't know. Basketball just has always been just something special. And, I didn't play football at all. And that's just one thing. But I love coaching all sports. I really do. I love coaching softball in the spring. And when I was a football coach, I loved coaching football. But with basketball, it's what I did. And so like I look at myself, and when I watch the kids play, it's like watching myself again when I was, a kid in high school. So I don't know. It's just because it's what I did in high school. It's why. It's that special attachment I have to the sport.
What do you do when a student is injured during practice?
Well, I'll ask them if they're okay. Like go check on them. That's the first thing. You want to make sure that it's not a life-threatening situation, that they're okay, that they can get off the court on their own, on their own power. And then you call doc, you call your trainer, let them know, and then you just go from there. We check first to see if it's a life-threatening injury. Do they need medical assistance right then? Do we need to call an ambulance? Or is it something where we can just, help you over to the training room and ice it down, and then doc can come in? So I think it just depends on the situation and the gravity of the incident.
How do you warm players up before a game, mentally and physically?
So before a game, it's two different phases. So mentally, I think mental preparation starts, the week prior, the days before the game, and then you're looking at scouting reports, you're looking at film, there's a lot of preparation that goes in mentally before the game. So you're looking at film, you're looking at plays, you're talking about it at practice, and then we always have like a meeting before the quarter starts, before the game were to start. I call it teammate time. If you're watching me, I walk in during the JV game, the fourth quarter, and I go like this to the kids. I'm like, hey, it's teammate time. You're getting ready for the game. You go down into the locker room, and I give you some last minute notes and tips and a little pregame speech trying to inspire the kids to play that day. And then physically, it starts again like anything else. Like you should be in shape for the game. You should have already been able to execute those plays during practice. But for like dynamic warm up or whatever, we are halftime shooting. The game prior, we're shooting at halftime. We're warming up that way. Whatever it is, and then you have your 8 minutes, 10 minutes before the game, and you're doing your shooting drills, you're doing your layups, you're doing free throws, you're doing shell drill, defensive shell drill. So again, the preparation for the game starts way before the day of, your days prior. So physically, you're on the court warming up. You're just trying to get those pregame jitters out of the way. Halftime, again, we're addressing stuff mental. So,
can you describe common problems that happen on and off the court?
What type of problems?
Just any problems in general.
Well, I think one of the biggest things we like to tackle in basketball is culture, is creating culture. So we want our culture to be positive. We want our culture to be powerful, to be something that unites us. So anything that attacks the culture has to be addressed right away. People can get selfish, and like, we want the ball, I want to score and stuff like that. I want to lead the team in scoring. So you start to have those issues. So you want to address those right away. This year we have a change in our core values and what we stand for. And this year it's family, it's integrity, it's energy. Bring the energy, respect the game, respect the opponents, respect each other. And then we want to do this every day, so commit every day. So like our little acronym for the season is FIERCE. And so I think anytime that your culture is attacked, it's probably one of the biggest issues you want to solve. And there are other problems, trying to get the logistics of it done, trying to get, to point from a bus and making sure everything's ready. I mean, you have, little things like referees and water, and is everything set up for that day. But to me, the biggest issues we have to tackle every day, so that it doesn't create a problem in the long run, it's culture. It's like cancer. You want to get to it as soon as possible, and you don't want to ignore it, because down the road it becomes a lot bigger and it's too late to address it, and it's going to overcome your program, it's going to overcome your team, and you can't fix it by then. So those little things, you gotta address it right away, because if not, then it becomes a bigger problem down the road, and you don't want that. You work so hard every day to create this program, to create this culture, to create that family environment, and in one moment, if you don't address it, it could be ruined. So those are the things you have to attack right away. And that's like a big company thing. It's not just basketball, it's not just sports, but in anything. That's just a life thing. Even with your own family, you got to address the little things, because the little things become bigger things down the road.
If a player is struggling academically, how do you offer help?
So in years past, what we do is we offer tutorials. We would offer tutorials after school or in the mornings, and we ask them to come in. A lot of the times, they have to go see their math teachers, because I can't teach math. So what we'll do is we'll make plans. Like, hey, during 8th period, during the athletic period, I really need you to go see, Miss Kerbo, because Miss Kerbo is really good about this. And we'll send them in, and they'll make up the practice later. But sometimes they just need that extra attention. And if you're struggling academically and you fail, you can't play. So we want to make sure that you're succeeding in the classroom. One of the things we always emphasize is academic All-State. Senior year, after it's all said and done, we want you nominated for an academic All-State team, which means you had like a 4.0 GPA and you did really well on your ACT, SATs test, and you have a very high ranking in your class. So we emphasize academics all the time, not just during the season, from day one through the season and the end of the season. Guys, we want you academic All-State your senior year. So, for them to get there, we have to give them a chance to be great in the classroom. And that means missing some of practice, so you get covered, that's fine. showing up at 7:30 in the morning for tutorials, that's fine. I mean, we are emphasizing those things all the time, not just during the season, but preseason, and then a lot of these girls transition to a spring sport with me, and I'm there with them. Like, same thing. Hey, you got to get in the classroom. You got to be passing. Let's get this done.
Any rules about basketball that you don't agree with?
Any what now?
Any rules about basketball that you don't agree with?
Any rules I don't? No, I think I've been doing it long enough that I don't disagree with them. Not at all. I think it's a well-balanced game. One thing I will say, though, is through the rule changes, to the progression in the past few years, we've noticed that it favors more offense than defense. When I was a kid, when we played, you could bump the defender. They were dribbling down the court, and you could get and impede them. And that's kind of changed. You can't make contact with the dribbler. I think that's one that it allows the game to flow, which I get. But at the same time, if you're a defensive specialist like I was, it takes away from you, trying to be a little aggressive. That's probably the change. I don't always agree with the change, but I understand why it's happening. You look at the NBA, you look at your top leagues, and they're scoring. That's the thing. They're scoring, and that's the type of environment, atmosphere they want for high school games. So I get it. There's one that might be coming our way. It's high school getting the shot clock, and I really don't know how I feel about that. I know it's good for the game. It's more aligned to what colleges do, and that way you don't get to, we're fortunate enough to have a kid go from high school to college, and they don't know how to play with the shot clock. So I get that. And I understand the purpose of bringing the shot clock to high school. I don't know how I feel about that just yet, because there's so many logistics that you have to take care of, and finding people and to run the shot clock and teaching them how to do the shot clock, and then it's going to change a lot of what we try to do in the game. But if it improves the game, I'm for it in the end.
Are there any basketball positions that are hard to coach or difficult to coach?
Being a point guard. Point guard is like being a quarterback. You have to run the show. You have to be a coach on the court, and you have to bring the ball down the court, and it's what people don't understand sometimes. You're the one that has to bring the ball down the court, and then not just that, you have to run the show. You have to tell people where to go, and you have to make sure that the play is executed. And I think that's the toughest thing for kids to understand. And you have to get that point guard in the same wavelength and mindset as you, as they have to understand what you want. And that's why you have to build a really good relationship with your point guards, because that point guard is an extension of you on the court. And that's why it's so difficult to coach that position, because they have to be smart. They have to know what you want, but you also have to be really good at basketball. You have to be able to distribute, to pass. You have to be able to bring the ball down the court. You have to have the best handles in the entire program. It's why you're the point guard. And that's why sometimes I'm very difficult on my point guards, because you have to be the best player on the team at every single moment. You're not just the scorer, but the most efficient, the smartest, the loudest, the best defender. So there's a lot of pressure on being a point guard.
What are some daily objectives for the players and coaches?
So for us, it goes back to our fears. Commit every day. The E in fierce, it's energy. We want to make sure we bring the energy. Be vitamin C. When I got here, that was one of the things we talked about all the time in practice. Be vitamin C. Inspire kids, uplift kids, your teammates, everybody else out there. Don't drain them of energy. Don't be ugly. Don't be negative. You want them to be, your teammates to be positive. And that's what gets the practices rolling. You want to be in a good environment, in a great practice. So if you're kind of like nonchalant, like I really don't want to be here, it brings everybody else down. So we always want to make sure that we bring the energy. Right, commit every day. You're out there, you're on the court, you're here to play basketball. You're here to get better. Then take the time to do it. And then one of the things is win the day. Be positive, attack everything the best, inside of the classroom. Sorry. on the court, you want to be your best. So win the day, be better than what you were yesterday, right? And just bring the energy.
And last simple question: what is your favorite basketball team? Could be college.
Oh man, the Lady Loboes. It's probably the team I pay the most attention to, are the Lady Loboes. Growing up, I was a Lakers fan. When Phil Jackson came in, Kobe Bryant was really young, Shaquille O'Neal was on the team. I loved the Lakers. I grew up watching those teams that won those championships. As I got older, I got more into college basketball. I loved watching Duke with Coach K and the Tobacco Road rivalry with North Carolina. I loved watching those games, those rivalries. So, and I became a Duke fan. They had a lot of great players that were great shooters, and you loved watching them. Here lately, I love watching Texas Tech women's basketball. Even the men's. I love watching Texas Tech basketball. I don't really follow the NBA. I keep up with it a little bit. I've caught a lot of Texas Tech games here lately. You know, Coach Reeves from last year played for Tech, and kind of just all the conversations that we had, and keeping up with him, and Coach Beard and everything he brought to the table, and then this new guy that they brought in, Millen College. He won a national championship with them, like in 2007. And just everything that he's going to do for them. And then with women's basketball, the coach that they have now, Coach Gerlich, she's a Panhandle girl. You know, she grew up in a small town out by Lubbock, and then she went and coached, played on the national championship team. And I coached with a lady, a woman that was on that team, and you know they won like in '97 or whatever it was. And listening to her stories and listening to everything that happened those years is pretty cool. And Coach Gerlich was at UT Arlington, and they called her to be the Texas Tech coach, and it's pretty cool to watch all of that unfold. And I've got to hear her speak a few times, and there's a couple of kids that I got to see them play personally. I went and scouted them because there was a chance we were going to play them in one of the regional tournaments. And so all of that is pretty neat. So getting to watch that, getting to watch them play, and because there's like I know they probably don't know me from anybody else, but you know who they are. And I think that's pretty cool. And I can't say that about many teams, right? Like I know you're from a little town called Groover. I watched you play in the regional semis, and that's impressive stuff. So I love watching just Texas Tech basketball right now.
You could teach or if you could coach any other sport besides basketball, what would it be?
Oh man, I think if you're a good coach, you can coach anything, right? I know that's not the question you asked me, but I think like if you're a good coach, it doesn't matter what sport you're going to go into, because you want to be able to coach it, because that's who you are. You're a coach, you're a teacher. Like that's the thing people have to understand. I know coaches always get a bad reputation, but I think it's wrong. I think you have to understand that coaches are teaching two things: their subjects and their sport. And as a teacher, you want to go in and teach something else.